Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I just read Lord of Excess by McCormick, and well, I think it can best be described by saying it perfectly encapsulates the Emperor's children. The thing is just that that is not necessarily a good thing. So the book mostly follows Xantine, a warlord of the Adored Warband, a splinter from the heretical Third Legion. He and his warband crash on an Imperial planet and soon take over the place. The book then follows a handful of characters as we see the planet and their lives change over the years. Because while the book starts as the Emperor's children crash on the planet, it has quite some time jumps and thus we end almost a decade later. Regardless, if you want to see what the Emperor's children do to that planet and how well things end for Xantine, then you'll have to read this novel for yourself. Let's start off with the good parts. For starters, McCormick's writing style is very humorous. It's a mixture of slapstick, dad jokes and absurdism that entertain me quite a lot. It also just fit the Emperor's children very well in my opinion. Like them starting to friendly fire to prevent someone from stealing their kill, or delivering some clever one-liners to showcase their superiority over the enemy. I think the best line to demonstrate McCormick's style in this book comes from the start of the book. Here the Imperials celebrate because the children of the Emperor have arrived to save them. Of course with this they mean loyalist space marines, especially since they are unaware of the existence of trader marines. You then have Xantine commenting on these celebrations with the tongue-in-cheek line that yes, of course, they are the Emperor's children. Maybe not the humor for everyone, but I had quite some giggles while reading this. Another big highlight for me is that this novel introduces a lot of cool ideas and concepts. Like for an example, there's a Slaaneshi possessed marine who has a semi-romantic or at least sexual relationship with a demonette. Or how the oppression by the followers of one of the monogods can lead to the creation of cults that follow another. Or what about the formation of the Great Rift, how that causes all sorts of weird issues in regards to Imperial trade. It also has some really cool executions of how a certain xenospecies can infiltrate and affect a planet. There are a lot of cool things in here that range from all over the Warhammer spectrum, both in terms of just lore things such as various units and factions, but also in terms of ideas and themes. That being said, that is also why I said this novel is just like the Third Legion. Shallow and always running after the next high. That may sound harsh at first, but after giving it some thought, this novel introduces about 20 characters and half a dozen plots, yet it doesn't do anything with any one of them. There really isn't any character progression to speak of, even though we span almost 10 years in terms of time. Same for the planet. Despite some minor changes, it remains basically the same no matter what happens. Entire rebellions just disappear without affecting anything. Slaanesh worshippers rule this planet, yet it has no effect on the larger population except that they become a bit more impoverished, and so on and so forth. The entire cool thing from a lore perspective about these weird factions being placed in charge is seeing how weird and messed up things become once they are in place. Even for the Imperium or the Mechanicum itself, this holds true. That's why the Warhammer crime novels are so interesting, or why the books by authors like ADB, Chris Wright and Dan Abnett are so cool. They create this cool world by extrapolating from the ideas about what would happen if Faction X were put in charge of something. That then creates things like the Dark Elf Society in Mal's Darkblade, the Chaos Planets in ADB's works, or the various Imperial structures we see in Wright's trilogies. But yeah, none of that is present here. Emotionally too, the book just doesn't do anything. Part of this is because it aims for a more light-hearted comedic tone, which would be fine. But whenever it does try to be serious, it just falls flat, and there are many reasons for that. One is that, like I mentioned, nothing in this book matters. Whenever someone important dies, they are forgotten and never mentioned again within 2 pages. Hell, there are even multiple characters that die and just magically reappear Deus Ex Machina a chapter later. Another is that even if the characters truly die, you just don't care about them. There are too many, none of them are really introduced, and all of their dialogue is meant to entertain and not to explore or to progress the characters. Another thing Lord of Excess does succeed at is being just as rushed as Slaanesh on the tabletop. Random antagonists are introduced, the who, why, how and such aren't really explored, and then they are either defeated or forgotten about. This book feels like it contains enough plots for at least a trilogy, and even if it was a trilogy, then still some stuff would probably have to be cut on the editor's table. So you can imagine that in a single novel of 400 pages, it becomes a true speedrun. The final thing I want to point out about it is that you really shouldn't expect a lot of Slaanesh to be in here. I know that this may seem to be the premise of the book, but outside of some Noise Marine cameos, the characters being arrogant, and the fact that one of them is dating a demon, that is kinda all there is. The book contains much more cool lore for Xenos, Khorne, the Wordbearers and Nurgle than it does for Slaanesh, which is kinda weird. So all in all, I'm giving Lord of Excess 3 to 5 stars because, like a weird drug trip, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about it. I didn't dislike it when reading, and like I said, I had quite some fun with all the puns and the slapstick. Yet at the same time, I really didn't care about the plot or the characters in the slightest, and as a result, this is the first time since I think I read Mortis that it took me almost a month to finish a single novel. So for Slaanesh or 3rd Legion fans, I would recommend to first take a look at the Fabius Bile trilogy by Josh Reynolds and the Horus Heresy novel Fulgrim by Graham McNeil. Then maybe go to Genefather by Haley, and only once you've gotten through all of those and really need more Emperor's Children content, then would I suggest getting this novel. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and click ringing the bell to appease the Great Horned Rat. For more lore content, please check my main channel and leave any book recommendations in the comments down below. I gotta get back to reading the next book.